Namaskar and welcome to one more episode of What Does This Data Say? I am Ajay Prakash. Whenever any event happens in our country, and more so when it is a political event, our news channels get overloaded in trying to report that event. The political events of the past few weeks has given enough opportunity for all these news channels to keep dishing out news and analysis about these political events. And I think this is going to continue for the next few months to come. Now, what happens in the process is that any important development which happens in the country does not get through to the citizens because nobody is reporting about these events. At best, you might find a reference of it in some small obscure corner on an online news channel. Now, today I am going to talk of one such news which I think is important enough for all of you to know about. A few days ago, on 25th June, the Day of the Seafarer was celebrated around the world. This day is celebrated every year to pay tributes to the lakhs of people who work tirelessly on ships on high seas around the world to ensure that our goods reach us safely. A week before this, on June 19th, the Defense Ministry published a press brief through the Press Information Bureau about the Indian Navy operations in the Gulf. The note read that Indian Navy's stealth frigate INS Talwar has been deployed in the Gulf to protect India's maritime interest. It also further stated that the security situation in the Gulf region is deteriorating, and that's why India's presence in that area becomes more necessary. The Navy terms this operation as Operation Sankalp and has been sending warships in this region since 2019. Now, why is India sending such an advanced stealth frigate to the Persian Sea is something that we should be aware of. And in today's episode, I am going to bring out all the data to tell you why India is doing what it is doing. INS Talwar has been deployed in the Strait of Hormuz. From there, it will be ready to assist all merchant ships which are coming to and going from India to the Persian Gulf. Strait of Hormuz is this narrow passage which joins the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Oman. The minimum width of Strait of Hormuz at one place is only about 40 kilometers. On the southern side of the strait falls the United Arab Republic, the area around Fujairah, while on the northern side there is Iran, the city of Bandar Abbas, which is a big naval base for the Iranian Navy. About 500 kilometers to the west lies Bahrain, which is the home of the Fifth Fleet of the US Navy. So the Gulf of Persia and the Gulf of Oman remain fully militarized zones. Many world navies operate in the Persian Gulf, and that is where INS Talwar is also set to operate. In this episode, I am going to discuss about the dangers to the merchant ships which operate in the Persian Gulf. Now, whenever we talk of threats to merchant vessels at sea, the first thing which strikes our mind are the sea pirates, and in our region, the notorious Somali pirate. However, sea piracy worldwide is on a decline. From the peak in 2010 to about 450 incidents per year, it is now down to 132 incidents per year all over the world. And Somali pirates have all but vanished from the scene totally. Sea piracy has gone down primarily because of the effort of the world navies who have stepped up their vigil in the areas which were affected. Regarding the hotspots of sea piracy, the Ministry of Transportation, Government of United States has issued an advisory. the largest number of sea hijacking and piracy still happens in the Gulf of Guinea, which is the west coast of Africa, surrounding the nations of Ivory Coast, Ghana, and Nigeria. The Gulf of Guinea remains a busy shipping zone where the trade of entire West Africa happens through this region. The Nigerian crude oil tankers also pass through this region. The second region where the US has issued an security advisory is the area of Persian Gulf, Strait of Hormuz, Gulf of Oman, Arabian Sea, Gulf of Aden, and the seas surrounding these regions. You might be surprised to see the name of Persian Gulf figuring in this list of the government of United States, because normally one expects the Persian Gulf to be a safe region. Now, Somali pilots don't find it lucrative enough to operate in that region anymore. They have started to migrate either towards West Africa or towards the Persian Gulf. In fact, from India's point of view, the Somali pirates had hijacked only one ship in 2006, a small cargo dinghy. Now, this vessel was released by a US warship within about 6 days. The pirates were captured and taken to Kenya, where they were sentenced to a 7-year imprisonment. But at that time also, India had sent its warships in the Somalian region to accompany the cargo ships that were coming towards India. Any kind of disruption in the movement of cargo at sea adds to the cost of the merchandise which is being moved around. In 2011, it was estimated that the Somali piracy had costed the world close to $7 billion annually. The increased costs were due to, firstly, the ships started going faster, which led to more fuel consumption. There were military costs. The ships started carrying security guards. At times they had to be rerouted. They started going close to the coast instead of the shortest route through high seas. Insurance increased. Then there were ransoms. Ransoms was a smaller part of the total expense. Prosecutions and counter piracy organizations all added up to the cost. The government had to spend an additional 20% as a cost of military and prosecution and imprisonment. Now, this cost had to be finally borne by the consumers like you and me, who started paying more for the same merchandise which landed on their shores. Now, due to the effective anti-piracy operations carried out globally, many things started happening post 2011. As I told you, the hijacking success rate fell drastically. Ransoms came down heavily. It was only a 2% of the total cost. But one thing of concern for India, which started happening, is that the piracy started expanding eastward, that is, towards the Persian Gulf. Now, not only did the pirates start moving eastward, there were a couple of geopolitical events which happened in this region which were detrimental to India's security interests. Now, before I go further, I will like to tell you how important the merchant navy is for our country. India imports about 85% of its oil. In 2019-2020, around 62% of India's oil came from the Gulf region. This was valued around $66 billion. Now, due to the prevailing security situation in the Persian Gulf, it is required to provide security to Indian flagged merchant vessels transiting through this region. And secondly, nearly 40% of India's GDP is made up from the export import component. Now, bulk of our export imports, that is about 99%, happens through the sea route. So we cannot but emphasize the importance of the merchant navy in the Indian economy. I will give you some more data about where India stands in the global trade in terms of the number of merchant ships we own and how many Indian staffs are working on the ships globally. As on January 2021, there were 53,973 merchant vessels registered in the world. The largest number of merchant ships are registered and owned under the Chinese flag, 7,318. The other countries who own the largest number of ships in the top 10 category are Greece, Japan, Singapore, Germany, Indonesia, Norway, US, Russia, and Hong Kong. These countries put together today own more than 60% of the global fleet. In terms of fleet ownership, India stands at the 18th position. Today, there are 1,491 ships registered in India. These small number of ships carry only about 1.3% of the global trade. I have picked up this data from the United Nations Trade and Development Council's website. Now let us see how many merchant navy staff are employed worldwide and what is India's share in that number. This data which I am showing you has been taken from the site of DG Shipping of India. Now in 2016 there were 1,43,940 merchant navy officers and men. That figure gradually went increasing. In fact, in 2017 there was a policy change after which substantial number of people started joining the merchant navy. The figure went to over 2 lakh and it kept increasing. But after 2019 there has been a steady decline in the number of people joining the merchant navy. Now, COVID is not the only reason because of this fall. As in this program, I will later tell you, there is another reason of why people are not joining the merchant navy. On a global scale, in 2016, India's share in the global manpower of merchant navy was 9%. In 2021, this went up to 11%. In officers, our share is 10%, while in ratings means the sailors and the men, it is 11%. One cargo ship typically carries anywhere between 22 to 25 men and officers. The Indian owned ships would be employing around 37,000 merchant navy staff. The balance of the people today would be working on foreign owned ships. Now, as a fallout of whatever I have told you, that is the piracy shifting eastward, a few geopolitical incidents which have happened in the Persian Gulf, and then why lesser number of Indians are opting for merchant navy. Now, two very significant political events have happened in the Gulf region from 2015 onwards. Firstly, in 2016, the United Nations imposed sanctions against Iran for pursuing their nuclear program clandestinely. In 2018, the Trump administration increased the scope of the sanctions and even forced India not to buy oil from Iran. So, economically, Iran got squeezed very badly. By 2015, the civil war in Yemen had also started. Now, this started threatening the shipping lanes in the Sea of Aden. Both the commercial ships and the naval ships were at risk. Now, in the Yemen civil war, fighting erupted between the Saudi-backed military and a terrorist group called the Houthis. Now, I call them a terrorist group because their slogan reads, God is the greatest, death to America, death to Israel, cursed be the Jews, victory to Islam. By 2015, the Houthis had taken over the government in Sana'a with the help of former President Ali Abdullah Saleh, and it is said that the Iranian government was backing the Houthis, though Iran never officially has accepted this statement. Now, here was an opportunity that the Iranians were looking for, and it came at the right time. As a quid pro quo, the Houthis were willing to support the Iranians. And then there were these Somali pirates who were let loose, floating around in that area, who could be picked up at any time for a very low cost. So there was a trained militia and there were trained pirates, both available in the Gulf region. Here I am highlighting three incidents which have happened in the Persian Gulf region in the last couple of years. Now, these incidents have heightened the security risks for our country, as well as it has put at risk the lives of the Indian Merchant Navy people who are working on these ships. The first incident I want to mention is from January 2019 when the British Navy seized an Iranian tanker off the coast of Gibraltar. This was done on the suspicion that the ship had been heading to Syria in violation of the European Union sanctions. Now, in retaliation, Iran's Revolutionary Guard seized a British tanker, Stena Impero, near the Strait of Hormuz. Iran claimed that this British tanker had hit an Iranian fishing boat, but later on it was proven that no such incident ever happened. The Iranians took this tanker along with the crew and docked it in the port of Bandar Abbas. It took about 2 months for the British to negotiate the release of the crew, which was predominantly Indians. There were 13 or 14 people from India. And later, the tanker was also released back to Britain. It is not clear how much money exchanged hands. As a part of the global sanctions, South Korea had also imposed sanctions on Iran. In January 2019 again, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard seized a South Korean tanker this time and forced the ship to change course and travel to Bandar Abbas port. While Iran claimed that they detained the ship over pollution in the Strait of Hormuz, it appeared to link the seizure to negotiations over billions of dollars in Iranian assets in South Korean banks. Another very strange incident happened in the Persian Gulf in 2020. In July that year, a 264-meter long 78,000 ton ship by the name Gulf Sky was seized by the Iranians. This ship later disappeared from shipping tracking websites that monitor the maritime traffic. It is widely believed that the Iranian Revolutionary Guards forced the owners to sell this tanker at an unknown cost to Iran. Now it is believed that this ship runs without a name and is a ghost ship which is operating in the region carrying Iranian crude to countries that are favorable to receive the crude oil. The captain of this ship was an Indian, Captain Joginder Singh, and there was a sizable number of Indian men on board. The Iranians kept the crew with them for several months, but later released them after ill-treating them very badly. Captain Joginder Singh says that at first we thought that they were pirates, but later on we found out that they are professional soldiers. Now, one of the most recent incidences of seizing a cargo ship happened in January this year. The cargo ship going by the name of Rawabi and its crew was hijacked by the Iran-backed Houthi militia on January the 3rd. On board were 7 Indian sailors, 1 Ethiopian, 1 Indonesian, a Filipino, and 1 person from Myanmar. The crew was released after a period of 4 months, and the tanker is still in the custody of the Iranians. This further proves the point that the Houthis and the Iranians are acting in tandem in the Strait of Hormuz. So, operating cargo ships in the Persian Gulf is becoming difficult by the day. It is not so much the piracy this time, but it is the government backed militia or the government guards themselves who are getting involved in these incidents. Today, the relationship between India and Iran remain quite good. So the Iranians are not attacking vessels which are inbound from India or going towards India. But you never know what will happen in the future. The threat is always there. And the last point is that Indian Merchant Navy staff are posted all over the world, but a fair bunch of them work on the Gulf India route because of various preferences. One is they know the routes, they know the languages, so many of the foreign carriers prefer Indian crews to operate in the Gulf region. Now, with the deteriorating security situation, lesser number of people have applied for this profession in the last 2 years. So, in addition to the effect of COVID when the recruitments went down, this is another factor why merchant navy is becoming a little unpopular these days. So I hope I have been able to give you a broader perspective of this issue. I'll see you again next week with some other interesting data. Till then, goodbye and namaskar.